Niners, Saints, kicking off this Sunday, 125. The circumstances of the 49ers, they've shifted a little bit. We've seen what happened last Thursday night against the Packers. This is a team. The inevitable about the team is that this is not the normal lineup that we would see with the 49ers. They're playing a bunch of backups, guys who went into the season second, third string. This is not the same team that stepped into New Orleans last year and won that shootout 48-46. Things have shifted a little bit, but anytime you play the Saints, the Niners play the Saints, it's a priority. It's a requirement. You need to do it. You need to revisit the history of this matchup. The first game that jumps off the page, the 2011 NFC Divisional Round Playoffs. I've been going to Niner games for a long time. My dad was a season ticket holder since 1980. I went to playoff games when I was about 6 years old, 7 years old against the Giants. That huge comeback victory in 2001, 2002, whatever year it was. The first playoff game I was ever old enough to really sit there and appreciate and recall was that game against the Saints. It was hands down the best football game I've ever been to. And I'm sure just any viewer watching that game, it has to be one of the best postseason games of all time.
Absolutely, Nick. I wasn't there. My dad was there. I was pretty pissed off he didn't take me. He was supposed to take me. That game was just phenomenal, man. To come back, we had 6 minutes. We came back 2 times. That's just phenomenal. Like, Alex Smith was lights out that game. And, bro, I remember when Dante Whitner knocked out their little running back. And when he started walking to the sideline and he flexed, the whole sideline went berserk. It was insane. Like, I was like, man, I should have been there. I really should have been there.
It's a moment that every time I reflect on it just gives me chills. It just gives me chills thinking about it. My dad, where he had his season tickets, he had his season tickets in Section 36, the north end zone by the Jumbotron, row 4, seat 11 and 12. That's where we sat game in, game out for years. So a lot of the action, the most exciting parts of that game happened in the south end zone. So the Dante Whitner hit, that happened in the south end zone where he knocked out Pierre Thomas. Just to kick off the game, I've never heard a stadium that loud. And then fast forward a couple drives later, it might even have been the very next drive when Drew Brees threw that interception to one of my favorite 49er defenders of all time, Deshaun Golson. He was actually running right towards me, the Hawk. I see you gesturing the Hawk. I thought he was going to score. That would have been one of my favorite plays in Candlestick history. I have a weird thing with interception returns where the interception return is one of the more exciting plays in football to watch. When you see all the defensive players just pave the road for the defender with the football. And then, of course, you get into the second half talking about what you're talking about, coming back, the 2 different comebacks. Alex Smith's bootleg, unfortunately, was on the opposite side of the end zone. And then immediately after that touchdown, I think the first touchdown was Darren Sproles. Then Alex Smith answered with the bootleg. Yep. And then there was the bomb to Jimmy Graham where Patrick Willis missed, Dante Whitner missed. He goes running down to our end zone. And it was the first time I was ever on TV in my life. I'm sitting there. They capture me and my dad right after the Fox broadcast. And I'm sitting there with my towel over my face or whatever I had going on. Like, what just happened? And then that next drive, this is my favorite memory, Marco, my favorite Candlestick memory. So again, mind you, I'm on the opposite side, the north end zone. Alex Smith's ball to Vernon Davis to win it. When he threw that, I did not have a clear view on it. I thought the pass was picked off because it was a tight window. He threaded the needle in between 2 Saints defenders. It was a complete timing pass. So I thought it was intercepted. My heart sunk right in that moment. And a half second later, the guy I don't even know sitting behind me picks me up. He doesn't know me. We're complete strangers.
Oh, shit.
He picks me up and starts like jumping up and down. Then I realized what had happened. And I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. It was just one of those memories that I'll never forget. I'm not getting choked up right now just talking about it. Just that's what Candlestick was. It was just there was fights there occasionally, just like any other stadium, but you really felt that sense. You were all there for the same purpose, to see the 49ers win football games. And Levi Stadium received its fair share of criticism in the early stages of its career, to call the stadium a career. And then they got some of that mojo back last year But Candlestick Park, the memories will really last forever. And just having a stranger pick you up when you're not really sure what just happened. You thought Alex Smith just threw an interception. One of my personal favorite memories of all time. And Tico asks, Marco, can you get a bigger microphone? I think Marco's microphone's the perfect size.
Perfect size. But the main reason why I'm situated, normally my mic's not in my face, but I wanted to make sure my logo was in the background today. But yeah, Nick, that game was amazing, man. I remember I was watching it at my grandma's house, and I literally ran like out the door as soon as Vernon Davis caught it, screaming my head off. And then that night, I called my dad when he was on his way home. I was like, I'm pissed off that you did not take me to this game. This was a game that I should have been at, and like they used to barbecue for the team in the back locker room with my uncle. So they had like backfield access and stuff. And I was so pissed. Like I could have been there with you guys and you didn't take me. Like that's so heartbreaking. Like, bro, it gives me chills because like I should have been there. But everything you said, man, nailed it perfectly. And then we go on with the Saints, and it kind of like a little not rivalry, but like that game is just you have to watch because there's something exciting. Like last year we had Jimmy G, but the other year I remember we were talking earlier about Ahmad Brooks when he sacked the Drew Brees and made his neck super long, and that's a meme that people use now. And man, it's just amazing how the 49ers in the Saints game is just one of those ones. If you're not watching, you're going to miss some explosive plays. You're going to miss some fun entertainment going on Sunday. So you better tune into this game.
I was digging in a little bit to the 49ers Saints rivalry. When the 49ers beat the Saints in 2011, that divisional round playoff game, they haven't beat them since 2002. So they lost like their previous 6 matchups against the Saints. And I remember I was on the edge of my seat that entire game. And the 49ers Saints 2011 divisional round playoff game, the best football game I've ever been to, one of the best playoff games of all time. And you have to revisit that and go down memory lane, if you will, every time the 49ers and Saints play each other. It's an absolute must. Again, just getting chills thinking about it. Then you fast forward to the game you're talking about, 2013 49ers Saints. That's when there was the controversial roughing the passer call on Ahmed Brooks. The 49ers were up 20-17. It was on a 3rd and 2. Patrick Willis comes up with the loose ball. The infamous Drew Brees meme where his neck is like stretched out like a slinky. Super stretched out. Just completely stretched out. And then the Saints ended up winning that game. 2014, Colin Kaepernick led the 49ers to an overtime win, had a huge bomb downfield to Michael Crabtree. That was another gut-wrenching loss for the Saints. And then you look back to last year, the 48-46 victory where George Kittle had the highlight of his life, where he's dragging Saints defenders left and right down the field. His face mask is getting yanked. There have been some great 49er Saints games over the course of the last couple years, and you have to appreciate it even more now, knowing what we know about the 49ers, the state of the organization, the state of the roster, the state of the personnel with all the injuries, because you might not get that same similar outcome or that same level of excitement in this game on Sunday. But I do think the 49ers have a fair chance to steal a game in New Orleans, and we'll get into that more later. But again, such a rich history between these two franchises. And a lot of the 49ers' success, I mean, come on, the 5 Super Bowls that they won all happened, January, February 1995 or beforehand? We were not alive for that. So as young millennial fans, games against the Saints, against the Seahawks, against the Packers, those are our rivals, our generation. Those are
our glory days.
Absolutely.
Those are our glory days, man. It's kind of sad, but those are our glory days besides the 2 Super Bowls we've got to see. But man, like you said, for this to be the game we look forward to, it just shows that we're going in a good direction as a 49er organization, because the future is bright ahead, and the 49er fan base should be jumping on this 49er wave, because this team to get back next year, we're going to get back a lot of key pieces to this defense and the offense. So I'm ready to rock with this game. Like you said, we could still win here, and if we still win here, it's going to be like, whoa, because just watching the Saints on Sunday against the Bucks, that was real entertaining, because I did not expect that from the Bucks. So,
well, I'm a believer in this kind of stuff where teams underestimate their opponent for whatever reason. I do think it's natural. It's inevitable. You've played high school sports. I played high school sports. Your coach will always tell you, don't underestimate X team, whatever team it is. And it's just hard to not feel like when you know you're better than a team or you see what they're dealing with, you naturally kind of overlook your opponent at times. It happens on all levels. There's trap games in the NFL all the time. The perfect example of this, the perfect example is the Steelers and Cowboys game last week. The Steelers are undefeated. The Steelers were 7-0, 8-0, whatever they were. They were undefeated going into the game. They still are undefeated. But the point is the Cowboys looked so bad Sunday night against the Eagles, where the Steelers probably went into the game expecting just to be able to manhandle the Cowboys or take them lightly. And that's why the game was as close as it was. And going back to the Packers-Vikings game before the 49ers and Packers played on Thursday night, the Packers were upset by the Vikings. They were not supposed to lose that game. It's always tough when you're playing a divisional opponent, but they came in with a little added energy knowing they had to get back on track. And the tables have kind of turned regarding the Saints. It's the exact opposite. They just had a huge win against the Buccaneers. They beat them for the second time this season. They've swept the Bucs. They've swept the next best team in their division. They have a rivalry game against the Falcons coming up next week. And division games, like I said, are always tough. So maybe they are taking this game lightly, knowing they're playing Nick Mullins, knowing there's no Raheem Mostert, knowing Deebo Samuel may or may not play. But let's jump in and start to preview this game, starting with the 49ers offense. You get Trent Williams coming back. You get Brandon Ayuk coming back. Deebo Samuel is up in the air. He did not practice yesterday. He did not practice today. It does not look like he's going to play this Sunday. That's not official, but that's what it's looking like. Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman are both out. So you'll get a heavy dose of tired legs Jerick McKinnon, who looked good last Thursday against the Packers, and JaMychal Hasty. How are you feeling about the offense?
Before we get started, Nick, I'm gonna there's a great question I want to talk about real quick, and I'm gonna bring it up.
Oh, I missed that.
Tico 418 asked, any advance to Saints being that Sanders and Alexander were just on the team? They know playbook calls and etc. What do you think about that going in? Because those are two players that were just on the 49ers. Sanders being with the 49ers on the Super Bowl run, and Quan Alexander just being traded away. So what do you think about that before we get to the offense?
Well, we see this in the NFL, not even with trades. If a player's released before the whole COVID protocols were in place and it took X amount of time for a player to actually enter the building, you would see it was very common for a player to get released, get picked up by whatever team was getting ready to play that team the following week, just so they can spill whatever information. And you're basically getting paid to snitch out the game plan, right? Like someone's like, hey, we'll give you $20,000 up front to bring you in. We don't really have long-term plans for you on our roster, but if you can share as much information you have about their game plan, that's really what we're bringing you in for. So absolutely, Emmanuel Sanders and Quan Alexander are telling Sean Payton everything they know about the 49ers playbook. The defensive coordinator of the Saints, Sean Payton's the head coach, telling Quan Alexander as a defensive player, telling the Saints defensive coordinator everything he knows about the 49ers offense. Emmanuel Sanders probably knows it very well for having spent half a season with the team last year and into the postseason. So is it an advantage? Yes and no. I feel like if Kyle Shanahan's aware of this, and if Kyle Shanahan is the offensive genius that we all think he is, that I believe he is, he'll be able to work around that. So it's not a huge advantage, but I do believe that both Quan Alexander and Emmanuel Sanders are sharing everything they know with their teammates and with their coaches to give the Saints as great of an advantage going into this game as they possibly can get.
And I would agree, but I would say that it is also a disadvantage as well, because you know what the offensive playbook is, all that. But now let's say Emmanuel Sanders tells Sean, their defensive coordinator, this is what they're going to run, this, and that. But then Kyle Shanahan go, joke's on you. I'm going to run different stuff. Quan Alexander, for example, I could see Kyle Shanahan wanting to pick on Quan Alexander in the run game because he takes really bad angles in the run game and he misses a lot of tackles. So it could be an advantage for the 49ers in some sense as well. But I think those two guys were really key 49ers on the roster last year. So it does give the Saints an advantage in terms of who and what they want to run in personnel wise. But getting to that main question you had asked about the 49ers, talking about the offense going forward against the Saints, I think the 49ers offense needs to get going. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to be key to that. The reason being is Brandon Ayuk is different. He's special. He's a receiver that Nick Mullins could rely on. And I think he's not a gadget player, so you're going to have to defend him. Like, they're going to have Marshawn Lattimore on him, and it's going to show how good of a receiver Brandon Ayuk is at the line. And I think Brandon Ayuk is such a good receiver at the line of scrimmage that I think he's going to be able to expose a little bit of Marshawn Lattimore. We're going to see Brandon Ayuk make a jump from who he is, and the whole NFL is going to be like, whoa, this young dude, this young cat is a baller. But it also goes to the run game. If the run game can't get going, I don't think they're going to have much they could really do on offense if that run game can't get going. Because on the other side, you have an explosive offense. They have Alvin Kamara. They have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. They have an explosive offense. So the offense, the key to the success is to run the ball. A lot of times people say the key to success to win is run the ball 30 times. In order for them to win, they have to run the ball at least 30 times because that means they win time of possession as well as keeping Drew Brees off the field. So that's key to success.
Yeah, I would agree. To have a successful game plan, to be able to go into New Orleans and maximize your chances of winning, you have to be able to establish the run. Whether or not the 49ers will be able to do that, who knows? You have Jerick McKinnon, you have JaMychal Hasty, and Austin Walter, who was recently just signed to the 53-man roster. So it's not going to be easy running the football. I think the Saints are the most balanced football team the 49ers have played this season to date. They have a high explosive offense with a lot of skill position players. They have studs on both sides of the ball. You look at the Saints defense, since we're talking about the Niners offense right now, the Saints defense, you got Cameron Jordan, you have Marcus Lattimore, Marcus Williams, the safety, Malcolm Jenkins. You have nice interior defenders in Malcolm Brown and Marcus Davenport, who they drafted in the first round a couple years ago. There is a lot of talent on the Saints defense. And it's Quan Alexander, who we were just talking about, and should be eligible to play and looks on track to play this Sunday against the 49ers. So the Niners are going to have their hands full. They have to be able to protect Nick Mullins. That's really what it comes down to for me. I talked about this on previous pods. The 49ers are not a team that is built to come from behind. They need to jump ahead early. And where I'm going with this is they need to stop deferring the ball to the second half when they win the coin toss. That's what they did against the Packers. And I was saying, no, you take the ball and you try to score first. I get the analytics behind it. You want the ball going in to the second half because it'll give you more possessions in the second half when the game is more on the line. The 49ers need to take the ball and they need to try to score first. And you think about it's a trend across the NFL. Every team that wins the coin toss, they want the ball in the second half. I think the 49ers should be the first team to break that, go back to how it was back in the day, say we want the ball first and we are going to throw the first punch in this football game. We're going to put you on your toes. We're going to march down the field, have a 75-yard drive, score a touchdown right off the bat. When the 49ers have done that, looking at what they did against the Rams, looking what they did against the Patriots, that's when they're at their best. They need to hit their opponent first. They have not won a game this year that they've trailed in. So what I do, step one against the Saints, you get the ball first and you go score and give your defense some breathing room.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what that does, and I do like that in some sense, because what it does, it puts fear in the opposing defense. Like, oh, that's what they think about us. They think they're just going to come out and score on us right away. And it kind of puts the thought process in your back of your head, like, do they know something that we don't? And so I do like that thought process of getting the ball first, going down and marching down and putting up 7 on the board right away, because the 49ers offense could spark that defense. And the defense is lacking the depth to get to the quarterback. It's going to lack the depth to make Drew Brees a non-factor, because if you put pressure on Drew Brees, he's not that good. So he's no longer has that arm strength, and Drew Brees is old. So what you have to do is you have to get that defense that momentum so where they could allow to blitz. They could allow to get beat deep, and it's not going to affect them. Our defense plays really conservative because our offense can't score points, and they don't score points early. So when you're playing conservative, it doesn't allow you to use your bullets in the chamber and blitz. So I would like to see Robert Saleh have his offense ahead and up and scoring. And because when he does that, he dials up a lot of blitzes, dials up a more aggressive game plan than the conservative, let everything be in front of you, get beat up front, don't let nothing get behind you. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Kyle Shanahan decides to do. But I hope he does want to draw a punch first. And what it does is show how physical of an offense you are and dominate them physically.
It's important. It's a very important thing for this team to be able to do is set the tone, send the first message, let them know right off the bat that yes, you're undermanned, you're missing a lot of players, you have $100 million on injured reserve, but you're not going to roll over. And that's what I wish they would have done against the Packers, because I've been advocating for this for a while. Not that it would have changed the game, but it eliminates you from having the Packers march right down the field on their opening drive and scoring a touchdown, then having to play from behind the rest of the game. Let's jump into the defense. And Alex Forget is the YouTube name. We have a visitor from our YouTube live stream. Can we bring pressure even with more blitzes? Here's the problem with the 49ers is that there is no pressure to be found with the front four. The 4 defensive linemen on the field are struggling to generate pressure. Consistently, at least. I go back to the first 2 drives against the Seahawks. Robert Saleh was on fire, absolutely on fire. You've seen K'Wan Williams come in on the nickel blitz and sack Russell Wilson. The Seahawks picked up 5 yards on their first 2 drives, 2 punts right off the bat. They had 9 plays. They picked up 1 first down, but they only picked up a total of 9 yards. I love the aggressiveness coming from Robert Saleh. And of course, when you're playing the Seahawks, a high octane offense, you can't sustain that level of success that you achieved on the first 2 drives. It's just too hard. No team is capable of holding the Seahawks time and time again to no points. It's just not possible. I would like to see that same style of aggressiveness against the Saints for an entire 60 minutes of football. Pressure Drew Brees. He does not have any sort of mobility. They need to get pressure going. So to answer Alex's question from YouTube, they need to generate pressure with blitzes. I want to see Jamar Taylor coming off the edge on those nickel blitzes. K'Wan Williams is out. He may not return for quite some time, 4-6 weeks, another high ankle sprain injury. They have to get creative. Fred Warner is doing everything right this season. I would like to see him blitzed more, having Robert Saleh utilize him as a blitzer. He's shown such a phenomenal ability to do it, a knack for doing it. Last season, he had 3 sacks. He was hitting quarterbacks earlier on this season when he was sent on those blitzes. I want to see more of that. Blitzes coming up the middle, because again, your defensive line is not generating pressure with the 4 guys up front like they were able to do last year. So you have to get more creative. Another reason why I think this game is a game where you can afford to take chances is because Drew Brees does not typically throw the ball downfield. Looking at what the 49ers went up against the last 2 games, the Seahawks with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf cooked the 49ers all day long. And then last week with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, the Saints are not a down-the-field football team, which is another reason why I feel like the 49ers can steal this game. Because Michael Thomas, they call him, what's his Mr. Slant, or what is his nickname?
Yeah, Mr. Slant.
Or I think there's some people call him something else. The Slants, whatever his name is.
Slant God, maybe? I don't know.
Slant God, whatever his name is. That's all he runs. So they're going to keep everything underneath, and I really think that's going to help them stay in this game.
See, what the thing is with blitzes, I was reading a former defensive coordinator in the NFL, and he said the thing with blitzes is it's like a gun. You have a certain amount of bullets, and you can't use all of them. And that's the thing I think with Robert Saleh, what he did too early in that Seattle game is the first drive, he used the blitz. Second drive, he used another blitz to get him off the field. And then he had to go away from the blitz because if you keep blitzing Russell Wilson like that, he's going to pick you apart. He knows where his hot read is. He knows where to go. So that's what I kind of didn't like from the first 2 series. The first series I loved. You take the momentum away. The second series, okay, now take it off a little bit. But I would like to see a lot more blitzes. I don't want to see Fred Warner blitz more. I would like to see them change it up and have Dre Greenlaw blitz. I would like to see them blitz one of the safeties, Tarvarius Moore, Jimmy Ward, Marcel Harris. Those safeties are fast. What were you going to say?
I was going to say if Tarvarius Moore gets on the field, So I was joking around on Twitter yesterday saying how many beat writers and analysts, folks in the media are going to have to continue to bang the table to get Tarvarius Moore on the field. It's baffling to me. I understand you just lost your safety in Jaquiski Tart, whose season is done, who may never play a snap for the 49ers again because his contract is set to expire at the end of the year. And people are so set and fixated on this idea that Marcel Harris is the strong safety and Tarvarius Moore can't do it because Harris has been Tart's backup and he's bigger in stature. That's completely false. If you look at Tarvarius Moore's film, what he did against the Patriots, he was out there smacking fools all over the field. And he's a hitter. He's a hitter and he's rangy. And it makes me sick to my stomach that he is not having the opportunity to develop on the field. I get very passionate about Tarvarius Moore because the 49ers are completely mishandling him as a young player in his third year.
And that's the problem is against New England, he was in the box. And people like to tell me he wasn't in the box. He was in the box. I watched the game film. He was in the damn box. Tarvarius Moore could play in the box. So I would like to see Robert Saleh scheme up some stuff. Put your best 11 on the field. He just talked about putting his best 11 on the field. Put Tarvarius Moore on the field and get Marcel Harris off the field. Last week, Marcel Harris gave up a touchdown. If T. Moore is in, he turns and runs, and he has the speed to keep up with the deep ball. So it's one of those ones where I'm confused on why our defense is doing what it's doing right now.
And this is a perfect segue because we just had a guest hop in the chat, the most recent 49er rider to not start because he's been doing it, but to put those fists to paper and pound the table for Tarvarius Moore to get onto the field. We have Leo Luna, a colleague of ours at All 49ers Sports Illustrated, host of Tapped In Sports. Leo, thank you so much for joining us. Let's jump in right where you left off yesterday talking about Tarvarius Moore. What the hell is it going to take for him to get on the field?
Dude, I don't know, but he needs to be on the damn field. As Marco just touched on from Saleh saying, hey, we're going to have our best 11 players out there. Well, I think that starts with Tarvarius Moore. What he does is he's a difference maker. Dude is, as far as a physical standpoint, 6'2" with a 4.3 speed. Jimmy Ward, he runs a 4.4, so Tarvarius Moore is even, quicker in that aspect, even in the 20-yard shuttle, just 3 cones right there. I don't know why he's not on the field, and if the 49ers want a chance in this game, it starts at that second safety position, because if you look at what Jared Cook did to Marcel Harris last year, it was awful. There's ugly. A debate. Yeah, there's a debate if Jared Cook doesn't get knocked out of the game by Ahkello Witherspoon, that the 49ers may not even have enough to come back in that game, because he was just exposing Marcel Harris. Marcel Harris is known as this hitter, but yet he just lightly bounced off of Jared Cook, and Cook ran it for 20 more yards into the end zone. So if you're known to be that hitter, and if you're going to have that hitter instead of coverage, you got to be hitting people like Cam Chancellor and just knock them down after they get a reception, not bounce off them. And Marcel Harris, yes, he is a hitter, but he is also known to bounce off. Remember DK Metcalf against those bigger receivers, he does bounce off them. So if he's bouncing off guys, you might as well put in your better coverage safety. And the Saints, they're not hitters. They're not the physical offense like, say, the Tennessee Titans. That's not the Saints. They run a finesse offense, quick passes. So this is a perfect game to incorporate Tarvarius Moore.
And you're talking about, Leo, these big body guys that Marcel Harris has struggled to take down. He throws his body all over the field, which I admire. I respect the passion and fire he plays with. He's almost like the safety version of Quan Alexander, where he just comes in like a heat-seeping missile, ready to hit someone with no clear plan of attack or making under control, I guess you can say. N'Keal Harry's what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, he's
Tarvarius Moore laid him out, and he still hasn't played since that hit. And I was joking with Grant about this the other day, Grant Cohn, that is, that not only has N'Keal Harry not played since the day of that hit, Tarvarius Moore has barely seen the field as a defender either. He's like the special teams gunner now. So that's an absolute joke to me. Another key I have to this game, yes, the Saints are not that physical offense. They like to get the ball out of their hands quickly. Alvin Kamara is featured so heavily as a receiving threat out of the backfield for the Saints that the tackling needs to be flawless, absolutely flawless this game. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw cannot afford to miss tackles. Not that they do that commonly. I know Dre Greenlaw missed his first tackle of the year on Thursday night, but they need to bring down Alvin Kamara right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But you talked about Tarvarius Moore being that special teams gunner. Want to know who else was a special teams gunner that turned out to be an elite player? Raheem Mostert. Put your best players on the field, 49ers. Come on now, Kyle. Do what is best for your team. But to talk about Alvin Kamara, he is a touchdown waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. That's how explosive he is. If you miss him, he will turn a 2-yard gain into an 80-yard touchdown run. And that's the thing with Quan Alexander that frustrated with me with him is missed too many tackles. Marcel Harris misses too many tackles. I would rather see Tarvarius Moore in there missing tackles because he gives you the better coverage. That's why. You give me better coverage, I'll take a 10-miss tackle here and there.
Absolutely agree on that. And just to touch back onto the Tarvarius Moore a little bit is when he's receiving the same amount as defensive snaps as us, everyone here in this conversation, that's not good. That's not winning football right there. He deserves to have more snaps than all of us for the 49ers. And like you said, it's the angles for Marcel Harris, and is he going to wrap up or is he just going to try to knock down Kamara? And Kamara has shown that he has pinball-like ability. He's not a bruiser by any means, but he could it's like some boxers. He could take a shot to the chin. He doesn't have a glass chin in that context. So you need to go with Tarvarius Moore, who's going to wrap up better, who, hey, if he takes a bad angle, his 4.2 speed's going to make up over it compared to Marcel Harris's bad angle. Marcel Harris, yes, he's a better than average backup in the NFL. I don't want to knock him too bad, but I am going to knock him when he's playing over Tarvarius Moore. And real quick, I was going to say, it's what allows Tarvarius Moore to more non-physical, non-Cam Chancellor, non-Jamal Adam type safeties is these two linebackers. You have two linebackers that are 3-down linebackers that are fast, that can recover, and that can hit. So you don't really need that bruiser at the back end unless you're playing a Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, to go back to the Patriots game, there's this notion that Tarvarius Moore can't line up in the box. He was lining up in the box against the Patriots, making tackles around the line of scrimmage. Go back and watch. I can guarantee anybody who doubts, not that you guys do, but anybody in the general audience, any general 49er fans that doubt his ability to line up in the box and hit, go back and watch the Patriots game because he was doing it. Another key I have, they have to generate pressure in the interior of the Saints offensive line. So Javon Kenlaw, that's one of my key guys that I really want to watch. We have not seen too many flashes from Kinlaw this year, and I've been rough on him this week. He hasn't done anything to really wow me. DeForest Buckner as a rookie, and we all know DeForest Buckner was a top 10 pick. What was he, 7th overall? He was an elite prospect coming out. Javon Kenlaw, everybody knew that he was a little raw, needed some work, but I have not seen too many flashes from him. Hell, even Solomon Thomas had some flashes as a rookie, so I'm not worried, so to say, about Kinlaw, but this is really a game where he needs to generate pressure from the interior. The Saints have invested heavily in their offensive line. Teron Armstead, a phenomenal left tackle. Andres Pete was a first-round draft pick out of Stanford playing left guard. They have the center from Texas A&M, Eric McCoy, that they drafted in the 2nd round last year. They drafted Cesar Ruiz in the 1st round out of Michigan, plugged him in at right guard. And right tackle Ryan Ramczyk, they invested heavily in their offensive line, but the interior is where they are weak. They need to be able to generate pressure from the interior. Drew Brees is getting sacked on 3.4% of his dropback. So it's not easy to sack Drew Brees, but I would be very impressed from Javon Kenlaw, and it would be a very reassuring performance for him to go out there and not just apply pressure, but get a few quarterback hits and make Drew Brees know that he's there.
And not necessarily get quarterback hits. If you're in Drew Brees is a short guy. So if you're in there, get your hands up, do something. I know a lot of people are looking at Javon Kenlaw and they're like, well, he hasn't done nothing. He's been really, really up there in the run game. As a rookie, if you're in there as a run game and you're doing great as a run game, the pass rush is going to come. I remember DeForest Buckner's rookie year. Everyone's comparing Javon Kenlaw to DeForest Buckner, but we're really not comparing him to the rookie DeForest Buckner. Rookie DeForest Buckner wasn't that good as a pass rusher. He was not. I went back to watch some film on him. He was not that great as a pass rusher. So when we put him on that Buckner level, it's like, well, Buckner wasn't all great as a pass rusher. He got a lot of his. I was looking at couple of his sacks. A couple of his sacks are due to the extreme motor that he had, finishing the play when it's close to the sideline and whatnot. But I think Javon Kenlaw, this could be a game he breaks out, but there could be a game where he doesn't. He probably might not have a sack all season. And this is going to be him going forward into the offseason, going to his defensive coach, Coach Bear, who I've talked to, and they're going to work it out. They're going to figure it out in the pass rush game. And I think Javon Kenlaw is in good hands. He was my D tackle number 1. He has the moves. It's now putting them together against the NFL talent because he didn't have an offseason to actually work on his against NFL caliber guards and tackles.
So I have a couple things to add right there. Then I want to pose a question to the both of you. So we talk about DeForest Buckner's rookie season. I'm starting to feel like DeForest Buckner as a rookie is extremely underappreciated. He had 74 tackles as a defensive tackle, an interior defensive lineman. He had 74 tackles. 74 tackles. Mind you, he played next to Quentin Dial. Remember him? Eli Harold, Ahmed Brooks, who was a solid edge defender, but was on the tail end of his career. Cassius Marsh. There was no help around DeForest Buckner. And right off the bat, he jumped off the page. And a problem I have with Eric Armstead and a lot of the arguments I get about Javon Kenlaw in my mentions are that, like, well, the entire defensive line is not intact. Since when do you evaluate a player's ability to play the game of football when others are not around? If you're drafting someone in the first round, they need to be able to have game-changing abilities on their own, like Eric Armstead. Eric Armstead, when he has talent around him, yes, he can put up a 10-sack season, but you give him that $85 million contract and you take away Nick Bosa, you take away D Ford, you took away Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, what do you get? A 3-sack season. That's what he's on pace for right now, just like he showed for the previous 4 years of his career. So I'm not for the argument that you need to evaluate someone when everybody else is around. If you're drafting for development, you're not drafting a player in the first round. There's so many developmental tackles that you can take rounds 2 through 7. Looking at Justin Matabuke, who was drafted by the Ravens, went to Texas A&M. Looking at Raekwon Davis, who I personally wanted to draft on day 2 or day 3 even. He went he underachieved at Alabama, but the point is when you have a guy
at Alabama, that's my issue. He was way too soft. He got pushed around way too. You see that a little bit with Kinlaw in the NFL, but you didn't see that with Kinlaw at South Carolina.
That's a good point. But another thing I'll add is I'd argue Kevin Givens is flashing as much right now, if not more, than Javon Kenlaw. I'm just not a huge advocate to draft interior defensive tackles in the first round of the NFL draft, unless you know you're getting a talent like Aaron Donald. But that's why Aaron Donald fell to 13th, 14th overall, because no one knew what he was going to be. They just don't change the game enough to be drafted that high, in my opinion. That's my personal take. I forgot the question that I was going to pose to you both. So if you have anything to add,
I'll go ahead and touch on I'll touch on Kinlaw then. It's you watch the tape on Kinlaw, like he's providing pressure, like whatever you want to say about pressure, your own personal opinion with pressure. He's getting there just on physicality, not with technique. He's not technically getting there. And that's one game he needs to develop within himself. He's able, you look at Buckner, you watch Buckner on tape, his hands are just boom, 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 boom. And that's how he's able to get to the quarterback. Kinlaw's not there yet. He's beating offensive guards right now in the NFL with the straight bull rush. Once he's able to gain that hand leverage, and guess what? He has a Nick Bosa on his team, and his same coach is the guy who coaches Aaron Donald. It's something he's going to pick up eventually, but I am noticing he is getting there. Where we struggle with Kinlaw is he's replacing Buckner, and we all remember what Buckner is, so it's hard. It's like taking George Kittle out of this offense and just letting him go somewhere else, and you expect Ross Dwelly, or say you draft a rookie tight end in the first round and you want George Kittle production, well, it's not really going to happen. And how many there's no excuse. He's a professional athlete. But how many practices has he really had? Even Kevin Givens has had way more practices than he has in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. So and he had a preseason.
Exactly. So with Kinlaw, his up to was, hey, you're getting ready for the season. We're getting you in shape, and you're going to play. There was no really teaching involved. It was just, this is our playbook. This is our scheme. This is what we're going to do. Be ready for week 1 because we are 4 weeks away. With every other offseason, okay, let's refine your tools. Let's get you better as a player. And then after that, we're going to learn the playbook and get ready for week 1. That wasn't the same with Kinlaw. So I think we just need to be patient, and it's going to happen. I think he's going to get there. Once he gets more of his wax on, wax off with his hands, if you want to say, he'll be a lot better. He'll start finishing those sacks.
And the thing is, you mentioned DeForest Buckner's stats, and DeForest Buckner had 70 tackles. I would hope a defensive tackle has 70 tackles when we were the worst rush defense in the entire league that year. We give up like 150 yards, 180 yards a game that year. So I would hope defensive tackles would have the majority of the tackles during that season. But like Leo said, he's not winning by finesse. And once we can get Coach Bear on, I've already talked to him. He's Javon Kenlaw's coach. It'll be interesting to ask him questions about that, the developmental of Javon Kinlaw, what he sees from him. And I'm looking forward to once he's coaching right now at Maryland. So once he's done with that, it'll be cool to get that on.
Real quick, what I like about Kinlaw as well is he's a guy that came from the gutter, if you want to say. He came from nowhere. So
JUCO product.
Exactly. So failure isn't, or not being A1 is not something that's abnormal to him. That actually feeds players like Kinlaw, that those mentality feeds him. Compared to a Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen's always been A1, and now the dude's on a practice squad, and his NFL career is probably done because he got to the Cardinals and they said, hey, you're underperforming. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And he was always treated as the golden child, where Kinlaw hasn't, and Kinlaw's always had to prove himself. So he's not in any other different pair of shoes that he hasn't been in before.
I like Javon Kenlaw. I'm not doubting that he can become a above average or even elite defensive tackle, an interior defensive tackle in the National Football League. I do not doubt that for a second. Of course, he has that potential and that ability. That's why he was drafted 14th overall. In the first round, you draft for immediate impact. And I see what the logic was. You just traded away DeForest Buckner. You're now paying an interior defensive tackle with a very high ceiling, a fraction of what DeForest Buckner was going to get. So I get all of the logic. And I, just like Eric Armstead is a complementary piece. And I think Javon Kenlaw is a complementary piece as well. So once everybody's back, we'll see what the entire puzzle looks like. But I do think you need to have some game-changing abilities if you're a first-round pick on your own. It's not always going to be a full army, if you will. You need to be able to do things on your own, and I have not seen too much of that from Javon Kenlaw. And I go back to Solomon Thomas because Solomon Thomas put up more numbers, quarterback hits, more sacks through the first 9 games of his career than we've seen from Javon Kenlaw. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't know. Yeah. I wouldn't say people are being soft on Javon Kenlaw because this is such a funky year with no OTAs, no mini camp. There's a lot wrong with this COVID-ridden world, especially for these young rookies. A lot of rookies who have been screwed over from this experience and what's going on in the world today. So I understand all that, and we'll see what happens with Kinlaw. I'm not doubting, like I said, I'm not doubting that he can't develop into something special, but I want that right off the bat with the first-round pick, and I understand I need to be more patient. That's the key word with Kinlaw, patience.
Yeah.
I think that's a key word. I think that's a key word with every rookie, though, because the 49ers knew who their receiver was in the draft. They knew Ayuk was their guy. Yeah. Kyle has said that. So Ayuk's not going at 14. So at that point, you could look at the draft and go, okay, what's best available player at the moment right now? And it was Javon Kinlaw. He has the upside to be that defensive tackle, and then they went with their main need was receiver for the 49ers, and they ended up getting their guy. So at the same time, they got a really high upside guy, and their main guy receiver is Brandon Ayuk. So,
And then stats are cool comparing Solomon Thomas's rookie year to Javon Kenlaw. Like, stats are great. I post it all the time, especially when it's in my favor. But watching these two players between Thomas and Kinlaw from their rookie years, Kinlaw is just way better than Solomon Thomas. I don't care what the stats are. Solomon Thomas, even in year 4 or year 3 since he got hurt this year, he was never winning physically to the amount that Kinlaw is winning physically. That's just pure natural talent that Kinlaw is winning off. And Thomas, he never did that in his 3 full seasons on the 49ers.
Yeah. Again, I just think a lot of my problems have been stemming with, or my frustrations, they're not my problems. My frustrations with the 49ers is
your
just
problems are my problems.
Like, right on, Leo. But seeing guys that can't do it on their own, like Jimmy Ward and Eric Armstead, are rich, are filthy rich, are multi-millionaires now because they had successful seasons, because their teammates made their life so much easier. And yes, football is a team sport, but when you're one of the last men standing, you need to be able to put some of that weight on your shoulders. And I have not seen that from Eric Armstead, and I have not seen that from Jimmy Ward, jumping away from Javon Kenlaw. We can cut Javon Kenlaw slack. I'll cut him slack, but I will give zero slack. Zero slack to Eric Armstead. Zero slack goes to you, Eric Armstead, because you go MIA when your peers are not around. And that's not what you're being paid for. You're not being paid solely to be a puzzle piece. You need to step up when your troops go down. Let's get into some more keys of the game for the 49ers on defense against the Saints, or even players to watch. What players specifically do you want to watch on the defensive side of the ball against the Saints?
Go ahead, Leo.
Can I say Tarvarius Moore? Can I?
Yeah, you can. You can.
I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm gonna go with a Jason Verrett, because I feel like if you're gonna give your defensive line time, like you're saying, your interior defensive line time to get to Drew Brees, I think they need to cover their off. To make that happen. And in order to make that happen against a team like the Saints, that's everything's underneath. Drew Brees has the lowest air yards per attempt in the NFL. You got to throw some man coverage in there. And I want to love to see Jason Verrett go against Michael Thomas, the slant god, or what is he, slant boy? Whatever.
That's what it was. Me and Marco were talking about. It's slant boy. No, slant boy. That's what he gets mad at.
Yeah, slant boy. Yeah. I want to see him go against Michael Thomas, because Michael Thomas is quick in those underneath routes and stuff. That's why he gets all the stats and the accolades that he gets. So, and with Jason Verrett, he's quick change of pace. His T-step is outstanding. So I think where he has a little trouble is against bigger receivers. Michael Thomas has a good stature, but he's not like a Devontae Adams or a DK Metcalf in build, essentially. So I'm interested to see that matchup. Verrett lock down Michael Thomas.
I'm actually interested to see Javon Kenlaw, the main guy we've been talking about. I want to see Javon Kenlaw, and I want to see Kevin Givens. I think Kevin Givens could play on the outside, could play at DN. So I would like to see him get some reps there. I think those are your two better defensive linemen on the roster right now. DJ Jones is everyone's hyped up DJ Jones of being like, oh, he's going to come out. He's going to be this 6-sack guy for us. Well, we're talking about Javon Kenlaw not being able to do it on his own. Either can DJ Jones. I mean, DJ Jones looked great when he was with Nick Bosa and all the other guys. Why isn't he looking good anymore? So that's one of those ones where it's like, okay, he's been in the league. Why isn't he doing what he did when he was with the other guys? Mm-hmm. So I want to see Kevin Givens and Javon Kenlaw. Those could be our defensive tackles moving forward. So those two need to have big games in order for the 49ers to be successful.
You stole all my thunder there. I was going Javon Kenlaw for the reasons I previously stated, and Kevin Givens. And to touch on DJ Jones a little bit, DJ Jones was a 6th-round draft pick. When you come into the league as a 6th-round draft pick, there are not many expectations surrounding you. Kevin Givens, undrafted free agent in 2019. Javon Kenlaw, when you're a first-round draft pick, there's expectations attached to it. It's inevitable. It's part of being that high of a draft prospect. So I'm going to switch things up. This is going to be a fun matchup. Fred Warner, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is an all-pro. Fred Warner is on his way to being an all-pro. Knowing how heavily he's used as a pass-catching threat out of the Saints' backfield, I am so excited to see that matchup. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw both need to do everything they can to slow down Kamara because he is such a high percentage of the Saints offense. And if this is why I think the 49ers could win this game and steal this game, because they match up well against the Saints. They truly do. They don't throw the ball down the field. They rely, similar to the 49ers, a short area passing game and the ground game, just like the 49ers do, honestly, and they match up well against that sort of offense on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm looking forward to the linebackers versus Alvin Kamara. We covered offense already, but I want to jump right back into that because we didn't go over our players to watch on offense. Leo, as our guest, we'll start with you. Which player are you looking forward to on offense the most to watch this Sunday?
I'm going to say JaMycal Hasty because I believe he needs to be involved more than he has the past few weeks for the 49ers to have success. Like McKinnon's cool. I like McKinnon, nothing against McKinnon, but I don't want to see McKinnon getting 12 carries and JaMycal Hasty getting 4. I want to see more of a balanced offense with JaMycal Hasty getting the ball. Let him get some screens. Let him cook a little bit. All right, let him eat. That's something I think they need to do with JaMycal Hasty, and it just adds that other development, or even Richie James for that fathom. Like both those two players need to be involved with how thin you are on offense.
Go ahead, Nick. I'll let you take this one.
All right, because Marco was getting ready to steal my thunder again. Well, actually, I think he might have mentioned it first, and I was like, that's Mike. I want to see Richie James in an expanded role. How could you not want to see more out of Richie James Jr.? Going into last week's game, he already averaged 19.7 yards per reception. It was a very small sample size. You know, the Richie James haters out there will be like, he's only caught 11 passes for his career, whatever it was. I don't care how many times he's touched the ball. Whenever the ball is in his hands, big plays happen. As a wide receiver, as a punt returner, he hasn't shown that much explosiveness. As a kick returner, he's broken off a few big returns, but as an wide receiver in the offense, big plays happen all the time. He walked onto that field on a hobbling ankle. He was 50% on Monday. Thursday comes. What was his stat line? 184 yards off 9-10 receptions and a touchdown. And on that one play where Justin School got taken to school by Zadarius Smith or Preston Smith, whoever it was, Mullins had Richie James wide open. Probably would have been another huge gain, maybe even a touchdown. The ball came up about 5-10 yards short because he got hit as he threw. But if School was able to hold up his protection there, that would have been another big play to Richie James Jr. So I want to see him in an expanded role. He's under contract again next year, the final year of his rookie deal. Kendrick Bourne is said to be a unrestricted free agent, and I'm as big of a Kendrick Bourne fan as there is out there. I'm a huge KB guy, but the Niners are going to be tight up against the cap next year. Richie James serving as that potential wide receiver number 3. He just screams out like an Andy Reid type of wide receiver, a guy that you can just fly all over the field using ghost motion, getting the ball on those little shovel passes up front. I want to see more Richie James Jr.
So really quick on the Richie James segment is you said people are like, oh, he's only made like 11 plays in his career before that game. Well, yeah, those were big plays. Jimmy Garoppolo's first touchdown pass in 2019, and then he accelerated the offense against the Cardinals when they were down 17-0. Now imagine if that was the defender that it was the opposite that gave up 11 big plays. Say Marcel Harris on defense, giving like so many plays against the Saints. Now people are saying, oh, bench Marcel Harris over 11 plays, but they're telling you to press the brakes on it doesn't make sense.
It's like the Tarvarius Moore situation. He makes plays when he's on the field, but he's not on the field much, so he's not
exactly.
He shouldn't be on the field. But I'm gonna stick to the trenches. I'm gonna go Daniel Brunskill starting at center if he stays there. The reason being is I think he had a decent outing last week. He could build upon that, and if he does, I know Richburg's not coming back. He won't be back this season, and we could eventually have Daniel Brunskill starting at center moving forward. I mean, if Kyle likes him enough and he wins the job, there could be a way he ends up starting at center, and the 49ers could draft a right guard or draft a center later in the draft and develop him and have Daniel Brunskill starting. So that's my guy I'm watching on offense and hope he does good.
I think they would love that because it's so much easier. It's not easy, but easier to find a right guard in the NFL compared to a center, just because the center is just more thinking, more alignment, more, of that situation. With the right guard, you're kind of getting told what to do a little bit, so it's an easier position to play. It's an easier position to find out on the market, and those are guys you could get in the third round or second round or fourth round in the draft and have an outstanding career, opposed to a center. Yeah, you can still find them there, but they're a lot harder to find in those positions.
And I think the reason why Brunskill can do well at center is because he's played left tackle, he's played right tackle, he's played guard, so he knows what to call for that offense in this offense. He understands the offense, so it's all about how he could play rather than knowing what to call and what to do.
I think that's great to hit on that, because in order to get the offensive line ready, he's played basically every position in that offensive line, so he understands it to a T. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a fantastic little note to dive in there.
Let's wrap things up with something that may not be so fun. Predictions for Sunday's game. The 49ers are not in an ideal space right now, mentally and physically, I guess you can say. Physically especially. How do you see Sunday unfolding? What's your prediction with a final score attached to it? Marco or Leo, either one of you start off first.
Go ahead, Leo.
Yeah. Like, I want to be a homer and I want to say 49ers, but it's just so hard. I'm gonna have to say the Saints in this one. I want the 49ers to keep it close as possible. If they do lose, well, at least there's the Zach Wilson train that we could start up. But I'm gonna say the Saints probably. They're not going to score as much. So I'm going to say 27-23.
27-23. They cover the spread there, huh? Go ahead, Marco.
I'm pulling a Nick. I'm going to plead the fifth on this one. Nah, but I don't think the 49ers win. I think it's going to be one of those games where we're like, why are we watching this? But we're going to watch it. I think they get blown out. I do. 49ers don't have enough on offense. Their defense can't get to Drew Brees, and with the way the Saints played last week, I was watching. I was like, damn, if we play the Saints how we played against the Packers, it's going to be another blowout type of game. But now that they're getting Brandon Ayuk back, they have a little bit more explosiveness on offense. So I'm going to go. I originally thought they're going to get blown out, but I'll go 30-23.
30-23. I was in your positions last week, having to sit here and say you predict the 49ers to get blown out. I'm going good cop, bad cop here. I'm the good guy. I see the 49ers winning this game. I have them stealing it. Last week I said there's no logical reason for the 49ers to be able to win this game against the Packers. They're going to get curb stomped. That's basically what I said, and sure enough, it happened. I have a different stance on this game, and I don't know why. I think the Saints riding high against their win against the Buccaneers, possibly overlooking the 49ers. I don't think the Saints offense is going to score many points against the 49ers defense. They're going to come out ready to go. And this is where the 49ers start their playoff push, winning this game against the Saints. I have a final score of 49ers 24, Saints 20. I just have a gut feeling there, not to be the homer, and I was on the forefront of them getting blown out last week. I'm going to switch things up, and I just have this hunch that they're going to surprise a lot of people and beat the Saints on Sunday.
If they do, I'd be happy.
I just want Nick Mullins to play good. Whatever the result is, because I think for the best interest of this team, they got to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo's contract. We could discuss that a different time. But for the best interest of this team, Nick Mullins got to play good to where the front office... If Nick Mullins plays bad, the front office is going to be like, oh, man, maybe Jimmy G is a lot better than we thought he would.
Mm-hmm. Play Josh Johnson.
Maybe we eat up that contract or whatever it is. So I just want good quarterback play so that they don't have that thought.
It's not going to happen. Right. Stop asking.
I have one more bonus question. This is specifically for Leo, because Leo, I can tell you're just devastated with the state of the franchise right now and all the injuries they're eating you. Let's feel good for a sec. Marco and I talked about this already earlier. This is just one of those things where everybody remembers where they were January 14th 2012, when the 49ers beat the Saints, Vernon Davis's catch.
Right.
What is your memory of that game? What was your experience, regardless of where you were?
Man, that was like first playoff run in a long time. That was a fantastic football team, and being older, because when they won their last Super Bowl against the Chargers, I was like 3 years old or whatever it was, 2 years old. So I don't remember having a beer during a football game at 2-3 years old. So with that playoff game, it was a little different. Had family over at my parents' house, all Ninered out. Even my parents' dog had a Niner jersey on.
Nice.
And just that emotional roller coaster from, yay, we're winning, to, what the hell just happened? This is not going to happen. You know, we're in the playoffs. This team is fantastic. Second round, we had a bye, and then, we're winning again. And it's like, God damn it, Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, stop it. And then all of a sudden, touchdown Niners again, and Darren Sproles got off for a long one.
Yep.
And then that pass to Vernon Davis by Alex Smith at the end, that was just complete dart. I wanted to cry like Vernon Davis did. We were just all jumping up and down, high-fiving. It's just one of those great family moments that you have together. Not, family moments people think about Christmas, and it's literally whatever brings you together. I will never watch The Bachelor. Some families do that. That's their thing together. But for us, it's the 49ers, the Giants, and basketball. I'm not Golden State. I'm Mavericks. Don't ask.
I saw that.
I was about to say, what's up?
Yeah, I love Steph Curry. So as long as they're not playing the Mavericks, I cheer for them. But it's just one of those sports moments with the family where you guys all get together, have some carne asada, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, I was talking to Mark when I shared this on the pod earlier. Just a moment that brings not just family together, but completely random strangers. So my experience was I sat in the north end zone in Candlestick, and so the touchdown happened in the south end zone. I could not see what happened. I thought the pass was picked off. My heart sunk right away. And this stranger I don't even know right behind me picked me up over his shoulder. The crowd just erupted. And that's just kind of how I remember Candlestick. Just a place where it doesn't matter what your background is. People from all sorts of different upbringings, all were there. 64, 66,000, whatever the capacity was of your closest friends. It doesn't matter if you knew them or not. Just that's what I'll forever remember Candlestick by. And I still, every time I share a story, I get goosebumps. That's just what Candlestick was. It doesn't matter if you knew the people around you or not. You were all there for the same exact reason. And I'm very happy that Levi's is starting to turn around and bring some of that back, because it was bad the first couple of years. It was like sitting in a library. I can't even explain it. And just having some of that camaraderie around you, it was electric at Levi's Stadium last year. And I just can't wait for there to be fans.
It was.
So what an ideal year for the 49ers to have a terrible season, right? Because I know I would have been out there going to every single game, dropping $150, $200 on every single ticket.
I was close to buying season tickets. Thank goodness I didn't.
Yeah,
I bought season tickets for baseball, so at least they just rolled it over to the next year.
Well,
nice.
You're for the Padres?
No, Giants.
I'm a Giants fan, but I'm in San Diego, so I got season tickets for the Padres. I could always sell the games I don't go to, whatever it is. But they just rolled it over to next season, which is fantastic.
Yeah, well,
Giants fan. I'm wearing my Giants gear every.
But I like you get to that point in your life where you go to sporting events for the sake of enjoying them, and it doesn't always have to be your hometown team or the team that you root for. So what are they? The Slam Diego Padres. They're on the come up. I know we're a football podcast, 49ers oriented, but hey, we're well versed in the sports world. Let's wrap things up. We're an hour and 5 minutes deep. This is the Faithful Fanatic podcast. We had Leo Luna joining us tonight, colleague of ours at Sports Illustrated, host of Tapped In Sports. Make sure to give him a follow on Twitter at LeoLuna93. Leo, thank you for joining us, and to our audience, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it.